In case you were not aware, the previous Prime Minister of Iraq, Mustafa Al-Kadhimi, was expected to be re-elected in October 2022, but strings were pulled behind closed doors and Iran-backed supporters ousted him. Al-Kadhimi was Iraq's head of security before becoming the Prime Minister of Iraq. That is like being the head of the CIA. He knows stuff. This happened after he helped the country to avoid bankruptcy during the global health crisis. It was a sudden and unexpected departure. Upon the existing prime minister taking office, Iran moved into Iraq's finances and government, not through the back door, but through the front door of policies and procedures. The U.S. administration at the time was unhappy about the tactics, but remained silent, allowing Iraq to forge its path forward. This was good in a way because it allowed Iraq to see just how far Iran would go in forcing its will on the Iraqi government. But, as you know, things have changed. Iraq is dealing with a new administration and things are different. The new administration is making demands. You don't need a PhD to understand that Iraq has over 100 billion US dollars in the US Federal Reserve Bank. This is all a part of the shadow sanctions Iraq is still under after the 2003 invasion. Iraq does not want to upset the current administration. Connect the dots, people. Connect the dots.
Former Iraqi Prime Minister Mustafa Al-Kadhimi has re-emerged onto the political scene, signaling that his recent return to Iraq could mark the beginning of a new chapter in his political journey. In a detailed interview with Al-Majalla magazine, Al-Kadhimi broke his silence since stepping down in 2022, explaining that his time away from Iraq was a period of rest and recalibration. He described it as a warrior's rest, noting it was also a chance for deep reflection, observation, writing, and developing strategic ideas to respond to the dramatic changes currently sweeping through the Middle East and the wider world. Al-Kadhimi's decision to return appears driven by growing regional instability and the need for Iraq to embrace rational, constructive discourse. He stressed that Iraq must avoid reckless political maneuvering and instead play a leading role in stabilizing the region. Emphasizing Iraq's identity as a core part of the Arab world, he asserted that Baghdad must remain firmly rooted in Arab consensus and must not turn its back on its strategic depth in the region. Although Al-Kadhimi did not explicitly confirm whether he will run in the upcoming parliamentary elections, he laid out two non-negotiable conditions for his potential participation. First, he insists on a transparent and credible electoral process, one free from manipulation and political coercion, a problem that has plagued Iraqi elections since the fall of Saddam Hussein in 2003. Second, he emphasized the need for a collective sense of national responsibility. He called on all political factions, whether in power or opposition, to put Iraq's stability and national interest above partisanship. He hinted at ongoing dialogue with various political groups who share his vision of reform and moderation, suggesting that his future in politics may depend on forming a unified coalition of like-minded actors. Our options remain open, he said, leaving the door wide open for a political comeback under the right circumstances. On foreign policy, Al-Kadhimi issued a strong defense of Iraq's partnership with the United States, which he described as essential to Iraq's institutional and developmental progress. He sharply criticized those who call for an end to U.S.-Iraq relations while secretly seeking American support behind closed doors, describing this behavior as hypocrisy mixed with ignorance. He also advocated for Iraq to maintain a neutral but influential role in the growing tensions between the United States and Iran. Rather than being a battleground for regional rivalries, he sees Iraq as a bridge for dialogue, not only between Washington and Tehran, but also among key Gulf players like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar. Al-Kadhimi's return may signal a shakeup in Iraq's current political equilibrium. His message appeals to moderate voters and disillusioned political actors frustrated by years of sectarian conflict, corruption, and dysfunction.
Check. Check one. Check.
If he decides to run, and if his conditions for fair elections are met, he could emerge as a centrist figure capable of bridging Iraq's fractured political landscape. His commitment to you. However, his re-entry could provoke strong resistance from Iran-aligned factions who view his previous administration as too close to Washington. This may escalate political polarization ahead of the next elections. In short, Al-Kadhimi's comeback could either catalyze reform and dialogue, or deepen the fault lines in an already fragile political system. The weeks and months ahead will determine which path Iraq takes.